I remember being on Facebook one time, like 8 years ago or something, and I came across a link from one of my brother's friends of what I assume was like a cover of a Rolling Stones song. I don't remember what song it was, but I clicked on the link and I started listening to it, and my first impression was that the recording sounded a little bit amateurish. Like I could hear the airiness of the recording, and it seemed like the drums were like off a tick, and the guitars were like really sloppy sounding, and I just kind of thought he could have done a better job with recording it. But about a minute into listening to it, I realized, wait a second, that's Mick Jagger singing, and this is definitely a Rolling Stones master take. And as soon as I realized what it was, the recording didn't sound amateur to me anymore. Like it changed instantly. Suddenly everything about the recording was good. Like all those little things that I thought were mistakes before were suddenly like charming little inflections. It was like I was listening to a completely different song. This has happened to me more than once. Like I've seen like share your music threads where people post their music and stuff, and I listen to a song, and it's like every little flaw in this singer's voice is like glaringly obvious, and you hear like little imperfections in the EQ, and it's like, oh, the mids are a little too high. God, these lyrics are so trite. Jesus. But then I click on the video title and like watch it on YouTube instead of an external site, and it's like, oh, 2 million people have watched this video and they all love it. And then after that, it's like all the little mistakes just seem to vanish, and then I go back to the thread, and it turns out that share your music meant like share a song that you like, not a song that you've like personally made. And it was just a song that I'd never heard before from a band that I'd never heard of. And I wonder what it is exactly about like the framing of these songs that makes me see it as amateur sounding. Like obviously it's partially because I assume it's like homebrew music, and so like through that filter I'm going to notice all the like homebrew elements of the song, because no song is mixed and recorded perfectly. And if what's highlighted about it are its amateur elements, which every recording has, then of course, that's going to be obvious to me. But, I kind of feel like it's also the fact that I feel like these people are spamming their music to me. And so, it's like I'm holding them to a much higher standard because of that. Like, it just comes off as like desperate and kind of annoying. And it's like, ew, get away from me. And it's like, unless this is going to like completely blow my mind and like change my life forever, you can skedaddle. And so, it's like I end up in a situation where I hear a song that like 2 million people love through the reality tunnel of it being like some desperate musician trying to like make me listen to their music. I also wonder what kind of framing it would take to get me to take someone's home recording seriously. Like, there are some albums out there that have taken like years to finally click with me. And I just wonder what would make me give an artist that much leeway, especially if it didn't connect with me at first. Like, what would cause me to give somebody the benefit of the doubt like that? I think one of the biggest problems of incels, or, forever alones or whatever you want to call them, and I say this as an incel, or, FA or whatever, is that we don't exist in a larger social context. We don't exist in communities. Outside of my immediate family, I'm basically a stranger to everyone I meet. Like, I don't know my neighbors. They're just some people upstairs that occasionally argue. I'm just like a one-dimensional point from the perspective of everybody. And, I mean that in an almost literal sense, because I kind of feel like a person's dimensionality, which is to say like, your ability to recognize them as dynamic human beings, is almost directly analogous to like actual geometry, like how stereoscopic 3D needs like 2 different perspectives to give the added dimension. I kind of feel like people need more than one reference point to be seen as more than one-dimensional. Like if I know somebody that knows somebody, I'd be more prone to give them a chance, as opposed to like a complete stranger. Because, if like a stranger comes up to me on the street and just starts talking, it's a pretty similar situation to just like spamming me with their music. It's just IRL spamming yourself. Like, ew, get away from me. I don't have any friends, by the way. I kind of feel like nobody's willing to give incels a chance, because they're just one-dimensional, contextless blobs of flesh to everybody. They don't exist in any community. Nobody can vouch for them. It's not like they're in your history class and you know of them, but you've just never talked to them. But then just, one day they show up at your party, and it's like, oh, hey man, I see you in class all the time. What's up, bro? No, you're just some stranger showing up at a party. Who is this guy? I've never heard of him before. And why would anybody trust a complete stranger? Like, I don't blame people for not trusting strangers. It's totally natural to fear the unknown. And it's not only that I'm a contextless blob of flesh, but it's that from my perspective, everyone is a contextless blob of flesh. And it's like, I don't have any reason to interact with anyone other than what I can like superficially make out about a person. And like, what can you superficially make out about a person? Like, okay, this person's wearing a blue blue shirt. Why would I interact with them? There'd be no point. It's not like I know them from somewhere, or like, they're a friend of a friend. It's like I have no obvious reason to invest the effort it would take to see this person as more than a contextless blob of flesh. And so it's sort of like I'm viewing reality from the inside of a black hole that I can't escape from, because it's like I can't glean any information from anybody, because nobody out there has any dimension from my perspective, and nobody can glean any information about me, because I'm just an invisible dot. The only thing that really even makes me feel alive anymore is nostalgia. I go on like night walks sometimes, and like I try to work myself into like a nostalgic mood with like, music and like just looking at the houses and scenery and stuff. It works sometimes. Like I walk around at night and like pretend I'm going to a friend's house or something, or like some party, and like I have school the next day or whatever. That's really the only thing I feel anything for anymore. I really wish I was just in high school again. So I kind of feel like the reason I romanticize high school is because, like I was saying before, like at least people know of you. At least you have a reputation that you have some degree of control over. Like, there's the potential that you could become the legend after the talent show or something. If I did a talent show now, I would just be some desperate guy on stage that everybody would be suspicious of, regardless of how talented I am. In fact, I actually did an open mic one time. Like, I just went by myself to some coffee shop and sang in front of a bunch of strangers. And like, I felt nothing from doing it because none of those people meant anything to me. And like, I wasn't out with friends or anything. And so I wasn't even really nervous, to be honest. I was just a stranger singing to a bunch of strangers in a coffee shop. Who cares? Life from the black hole. I think all this stuff probably applies to employment too. Like, I think part of the reason that people my age are having such trouble finding good jobs, even though they have like good degrees or whatever, is because nobody sees them as anything more than like one-dimensional strangers. Like, nobody cares about your dumb degree. You're a potential crazy person, and more than anything, it just comes off as desperate. Ew, why are you sending me your resume? What do you want from me? Nobody can vouch for you. You're not in my class. You're not even from my school. Nobody I know knows who you are. You have no social aura. Your shortcomings are unforgivable mistakes. So, unless you're literally Superman, you can skedaddle. Oh, and here's me spamming my music, by the way.